5 red lights. And it's lights out, and away we go for the Italian Grand Prix. It's a very good start from Photon, as we're going to ride on board with Hypers, who's going to get picked off by Leopard on the start. But Photon looking aggressive, heading into the Rettifilio chicane, and he will pick up the position. But Matthias has the inside. Photon gets a better drive and will take the lead. Back behind Hypers is a side-by-side with a Leopard through the Ascari chicane, and they may even be able to have a little look at Matthias heading into the Roja chicane. Hypers will have a go. There's contact, and they're going to be sent off. Matthias will be forced to cut the corner, and now we're going to see Leopard having a go at Hypers into Lesmo 1. He'll push Hypers wide. Hypers will rejoin the track, and now Lehman down the inside into Lesmo 2. Hypers will be able to get a decent run now on the outside as he makes his way down the straight. There's contact between the two as Lehman's pushing Hypers wide, and there's contact, and I do believe that was Lehman's fault. Hypers into the wall. His wheel is gone. That is a massive, massive accident. Close enough, he will have DRS and a slipstream. Oh, but he loses the back end, and Soren's into the wall. He bounces off the track of the race, and we'll be looking to excite this battle. Leopard down the inside into turn 1 will pick up the position without too much of an issue. Have the run down the inside, and down the inside he will go as Matthias. Would he potentially be getting caught out by this? Napadovsky will have a bad run, and now Matthias side by side with Napadovsky out of the Rettifilio chicane. Matthias will squeeze Napadovsky. Undernator. Mode 3 ERS. DRS enabled. And down the inside he will go and pick up the position without an issue as a second. Napadovsky is very close. He's going to have a look on the outside into the Rettifilio chicane. Inside for Turner 2. Will pick up the position, but Leopard now is going to have a good drive. This is all working into the hands of Matthias, who will be able to pull away. But Leopard around the outside into Curva Grande. Should have the inside into the Roja chicane, but Napadovsky will go defensive. Falling back, and Leopard is going to have a go. Down the inside we go. Down the start finish straight. It is a 3-second gap to Photon, and Leopard should be taking first after penalties kick in. Matthias needs to get within about 2/10 of Leopard. It's going to be close. Photon picks up the win. Leopard will jump ahead. Matthias will not. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to ORL round 15 here at the circuit of Singapore. As you saw from the highlight videos, it was a very exciting race at Monza, full of, well, a bit of a championship turmoil. However, to remind us where things currently sit in the Drivers' and Constructors' Championships, let's take a quick look, shall we? In the Drivers' Championship, Photon extends his lead to Velocity Hypers up to 22 points. Napadovsky, after participating in a race, is now on 100 points at a Formula Danny, who is still in 4th place. Lemon and Mark, despite attending the race, unfortunately got caught up in incidents, and they remain in 5th and 6th, neither of them picking up a single point. In the Constructors' Championship, Toro Rosso extend their lead courtesy of Photon's 2nd place finish, while Mercedes are unable to pick up any points at all. Red Bull are in 3rd, but they pick up some nice points and close in the gap to Mercedes somewhat. Williams are in 4th, only 20 points behind Red Bull. Alfa Romeo still sit in 5th, ahead of Ferrari in 6th, with McLaren, courtesy of Leopard's attendance and joining the McLaren team, are now in 7th place. Wow, so we are now seeing that Photon has a big lead at the top of the standings. But as we did see in the short highlight video, there was a bit of some entertaining moments on lap 1. So let's take you through those, shall we?
pace up, and then they just went in zigzag lines because they always wanted to get the control back of the car.
And I think after that first contact came in, it was just always going to be pretty bad. But that's how it ended. And also, that incident that Hypers did have with Matthias has meant that I believe Hypers now has a total of 40 penalty points over the season, which ultimately means that he does have a race ban. So he will not be taking part in today's race. So it's a fantastic opportunity for Photon to extend that gap.
Yeah, and I think why don't we take a look at our today's track, and why don't we let this do the drive of the day of last time, Leopard, a newcomer who won last Grand Prix, and yeah, let's take a look at it.
After picking up his ORL maiden victory on his debut, Leopard takes us round a hot lap here under the night sky at Singapore. Come across the line in 7th gear and spot your braking point heading into turn 1 nice and late. Drop it down to 4th. Try to keep as much momentum and drop it down into 1st gear for turn 3. Through the kink of a 4, short shifting up. And now prepare for the right-hander of 5. Use as much curb as you can and get back on the power as you make your way onto the Raffles Boulevard. Knock it up into 7th gear. You don't need to go up into 8th and spot your braking nice and late as you drop down into 3rd gear as you now make your way into turn 8. Stay off the curb, short shift up into 3rd and now into the left hand of a turn 9. Short run towards a turn 10. Put your braking point at about 40 meters, take as much curb, pull the car back over to the left as you make your way into the tight twisty section and through the Anderson Bridge. Knock it down once again into 1st, but quickly come back up to 2nd as you make your way through turn 13 and onto the Esplanade Drive. Once again, get ready to spot your braking point. Very easy to run wide into turn 14. Back on the power up into 4th gear as you make your way through the kink of 15. Straighten up the car as you brake down for 16 and 17. Back on the power, use as much curb as possible as you now make your way into 18 and 19. Technical part of the track here as you drop it back down into 3rd, short shift up into 4th, get onto the power, and now be careful into 22 and 23 as it is easy to lose a back end Leopard with a little left and across the line to set a 1:35.679. Wow, a pretty quick lap there coming in from Leopard. We'll have to see whether anyone can beat that 1:35.68. And the thing that I'm very interested for is, I mean, obviously we saw Leopard doing that lap on the soft tires, but here at Singapore, it is a track that does wear out the tires quite a lot, a very long circuit. And I'm interested to see whether we're going to be seeing any 2-stops coming out, or if we're just going to be seeing that medium to hard transition, if that is anyone wants to risk it and go for some softs in the race.
Yeah, that's always some interesting points in strategy. Yeah, but well, let's see what in qualifying happens, because you're getting that tire in the race. Except for maybe the ones in the back, 11th place and so on, will do some kind of crazy strategies. I don't know. If they want to, maybe start in hard, for example.
Yeah, and it's always very interesting that you see in ORL, because it is just a one session of qualifying.
Yeah.
You know, do you it's a balancing act. Do you go for that raw pace on the soft tires, or do you go for maybe something riskier going to qualify on the mediums or even the hards? And I remember last year we had our ORL driver in the Williams, Myler, and he was always qualifying on the soft tires, and he was qualifying in front of the esports drivers as well. And we'd interview him afterwards and talk to him about that, and he'd say, yeah, I just wanted to throw a spanner into the mix, you know, make these esports drivers get past me on soft tires at the start of the race. So you know, he fully enjoyed being able to do that. It made it
Yeah,
entertaining for us, and it throws so much into the mix.
yeah. Some drivers just want to experience the racing, not only just turning around the track without seeing anybody, but if you're in front and actually slower than the most of them, have a little bit fun, as long as it's fair.
As it does appear that everyone is in the lobby. To give you all a rundown of who is taking part in the Mercedes, we have Zones and FK Gaming. In the pardon me. In the Ferraris, we have Nameless and Mark. However, Mark's experiencing some connection issues, so he might struggle to be able to join us tonight. In the Red Bulls, we have Napadovsky joining us for his second race in a row, as well as Mr. Anchor. Leopard and Paddy in the McLarens. We've already hyped up Leopard a bit, but interesting to see what he will be able to do here at Singapore. In the Toro Rossos, we have Photon, our championship leader, and Calcifer unable to join us as he has informed me, he has purchased a new racing wheel, Fanatic CSL, I believe, and it hasn't arrived yet. So he's going to be stuck on the sidelines watching. He might even be joining us in the commentary booth. If you'd like to see him over here, drop us a little message, and we'll see if we can pull him in for you. Wow and Brownie will also be joining us, as will Rip SN. He joined us for the first time last week at Monza, and he'll be alongside Rupert. Soren and Kaboom in the Force Indias, Crucix and Andinator in the Haas's, and Lehman will be the sole Williams driver, as Matthias will not be able to join us tonight. But I can hear beeping in the background, and I believe that means that we're about to go racing. Right. So we have practically a full grid for tonight then. And well, at a very tricky circuit to not only navigate, but to overtake in as well. You have one big overtaking point, and that's about it on this.
Yeah, so basically your starting position, your grid position is very important. And I think there are a lot of overtakes made then by undercuts, for example, or overcuts. Depends on what you're doing.
Yes, indeed. So as the drivers are into, or I should say onto the track, so let's head on over and take a little look and join our good old buddies on the circuit. We'll have to see who's going to be the first one to go out. We're seeing a couple of drivers looking at those hard tyres at the moment, but as we said, a massive balancing act between the three compounds of tyres available. Something else I will have to check on at some point are the conditions for the race. It's looking dry and hopefully will remain so for qualifying, but it is known to race here in the game, at least, at Singapore.
Yeah, and Lehman just left the session with no time.
Okay,
I don't know why.
he should hopefully be able to rejoin. We are seeing Rupert making his way out in the Ferrari. He was supposed to be in the Alpha, I do believe, but the Ferrari, and that's going to cause some issues for Mark, who is trying to onto the lobby. And
Yeah.
okay, so because Rupert's in the Ferrari, Mr. Anchor is now in a Red Bull. Oh wait, no, Mr. Anchor is supposed to be in a Red Bull. Never mind, never mind.
Mark is a alpha.
Okay, so Mark has joined and he's just taken whatever car is left available to him, which was the Alfa Romeo. And actually, as I say that, it looks like Rip SN is actually in a Williams. So a couple of drivers in the wrong cars, it would seem, but hopefully that won't cause too many issues. Again, it's not really an issue unless they are an official driver for a team, which some of them are not, as Kaboom also leaves the session as well. Right. So,
Yeah.
the lap time, to remind you all that our driver of the day from Monza, Leopard, who is now a McLaren driver set, was a 1:35.679. But that was on soft tyres. I was riding on board with him that lap. He did a lap before, and it was looking like a really good lap. And then he came through the final couple of corners, and he lost the back end, and he did a 360 across the line. So I really wanted to use that, but I didn't. So 35.68 on the soft tyres. So on the mediums and potentially a hards, I guess we're looking for a mid 36 really.
Yeah, so basically around about that will be the times.
Azanka throwing it through turn of 5 into the kink of 6 as he makes his way to the end of, I guess, the second DRS zone. Swings it into 7, pull it back across as he makes his way into the right left of 8 and 9. Drop it down into third gear, back on the power. Use as much track as possible as, well, the Armco kind of falls away. And now heading down into turn 10. Ready yourself up for 11 and 12 as you make your way through the Anderson Bridge. Pull your car all the way to the right, but so easy to lock up as you just dragging the car over, feeding the brakes in as well. Out through 12 we go, and now getting ready, pardon me, turn 14. Now through the short straight into turns 16 and 17, and probably onto the most iconic part of the circuit now, where you make your way under the bridge through 18 and 19. Slowly feed the power in. On the hard tires is Mr. Anchor into 20 and 21. Just the final couple of left-handers remaining. Let's see if Mr. Anchor can take it cleanly. Short shift, quick shift down into 5th. Back on the power, 36.7, and he's right on that kind of benchmark time that we were talking about.
Yeah. Exactly that what you were talking about. So basically, maybe if some of the, for example, Leopard tries it on the mediums at the moment, so he will probably set a faster time.
FK Gaming coming around the final corner now. What's it going to be? It's not that quick. It's a 37.7 on the hards, and it will be invalidated as zones. That's a 35.4. And Crusax takes provisional pole, a 35.1. Half a second quicker than that track guide lap. But it is on the soft tires. And I always find that this is the riskier strategy to do, Mako, because so many times we do see drivers, they set themselves up for a lap, or the first laps they do is always on the harder compound of tyres, so that they can improve on a softer set of tyres if they wish. But when you do decide to do that first lap on the softest of the compounds, it confirms what you are going to do, and that is that you do have to qualify on the softs, unless you can pull out a mega lap on a harder compound of tires.
I mean, you could try a slow lap on the soft, like drive some corners a little bit slower, so that you won't get that good time. But why did you do that at all? I mean, why?
Riding on board with Soren now as he makes his way through 18 and 19. As we see Shad completing his lap in one of the Mercedes, it appears, which means that FK Gaming's in... wait, no, Shad is in a Williams. Always hard to distinguish between those colours. Mercedes, Williams, and Toro Rosso very similar in colour. Soren goes fourth on the medium tyres of 1:35.8, so he's 4/10 of Zones in Napadovsky. And actually, I feel like we have to give a lot of credit to Zones, because the first race that I remember him back at Spa, he was kind of battling for best of the rest with Calcifer, but then he got a bit stronger at Monza, and now he's at the pace of Napadovsky, which is a massive, massive result for him. He's Shad clipping a wall in the Toro Rosso. He makes his way to the Anderson Bridge. Now through 13 onto the Esplanade Drive.
R7 just told me the stream is a little bit stuttering, but yes, sometimes it is. Sometimes it's fluent, but sometimes it's a little bit stuttering.
Okay, that tends to mean that we need to turn down our bitrate, which I had at 1,500 in an attempt to
Or
get.
try stop the Discord the Discord thing.
Yeah, I remembered that before, but I thought I'm not going to do it because that's going to pause the game. So, with that said, I should be able to put it back at 2,500. It's a balancing act, trying to be able to get 1,000 what's it called, pixel quality, but that should hopefully help us out.
Yeah. So
We sit with Rupert, just did a 37.3 on soft tires, so that's a pretty slow lap. Who is on a hot lap? Paddy is on a hot lap, making his way into the third sector right now. 20 and 21, it's what we've seen so far has been fairly clean, not pushing the limits too much, but he's going to be a couple of seconds off the pace. 35.7 will come in, enough for 5th place, but so far, Photon, 35.2 on the mediums. That one slipped past my eyesight, but that is
yeah,
very, very fast from the Toro Rosso driver.
interesting would be what games, for example.
Wait, you cut out for me.
Interesting would be what Hypers could do or would do on the if they would bell, for example.
Yes. I'm sure
Hold on,
Hypers
because
will be checking this quite intently to see what Photon is doing, because if Photon does win, that's going to be almost a 50-point advantage with what, 5 races remaining. So this could be the round that determines the championship. But in fact, the last 2 races would be, or the last race and this race would be the rounds that would have decided the championship if it does go Photon's way. Rip has a massive moment with the back end.
I think he has already thrown away the lap before, because I think that also was already an out lap, and this is now his second one. Seems he has a little bit of oversteer in nearly every corner.
Yeah, he's really throwing it about on these soft tires, but as you mentioned, he's already done 1 lap, so you know, if this is a fast lap for Rip, it's going to be bad, because he's going to have to start on these tires if he does make it into the top 10. Make things very, very difficult. Photon, though, he's gone on an out lap, and he is on those softer tires. So it does appear that most of the field is opting for the soft tires. So we'll have to see whether they can make a one-stop work, softs onto mediums or softs onto hards. Maybe just a 2-stop strategy as... Okay, I guess Rip just trying to make it back to the pits as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
I
think these tires are really done, or the setup is not that good.
Mr. Anchor, though?
Now, yeah.
Takes provisional pole with a 34.9 on a set of medium tires. .9 from Wow, so he takes provisional pole, 300s up, but on those soft set of tires as Nameless just pips him in the Ferrari. Actually, just 3/10 up on the Renault driver as we see a Toro Rosso coming across the line. I think that was Soron. Look, yes, it was Soron, 35.8 coming in from him. Paddy's on a slower lap at the moment. However, Napadovsky on the soft tires, he's half a second up on his previous best, and that's just through the first sector alone. So he's already on to take second, and he still has a lot more time to gain as he makes his way onto the Esplanade Drive.
And Krusik takes provisional pole with a 134.5. 1/10 up on Nameless. More half-10th, but yeah.
The Zones moves up to third with a 34.9, but Napadovsky making his way under the bridge now. He has to be one of the drivers to be watching out for alongside the likes of Photon. Mark still yet to set a lap, still having troubles connecting, it would appear. Napadovsky through the final corner is looking quick. It's a 34 flat. And Napadovsky shows us why he is one of the quickest drivers on the field. Half a second clear of second place man Kruzix. Let's get on board with Photon because he is 4/10 up through that first sector. Like Napadovsky, he has 2 more sectors to improve on his time. He's already on up a third, fourth position as Leopard actually moves up into second with a 34.2 on those soft tires. As Photon under the bridge we go. Turns 20 and 21. Feeder power, just 2 corners remaining. This is the Armco on the exit. Jumps across the curb, and it's going to be across the line for a 34.2, but it is not going to count. It would have only been enough for third, a 4 thousandths down on Leopard. And I think that might have been through the penultimate corner he lost that one.
Yeah. But as you mentioned, Leopard is now in second with a 134.2.
I just want to bring this up because Photon, he's only got just under 4 minutes. He has to make it back to the pits and do an outlap before that timer runs out. So he's not going to have a lot of time. Meanwhile, riding on board with Brownie, this is going to be his final lap as we are approaching the final stages of qualifying.
Yeah. Can do this, but it will be really close.
As Brownie just completely cuts the corner, so I'm not sure what his plan is. Maybe he's going to come into the pits and go back out on a new set of tires.
That, or he's just trying another round on this tire.
Dad not on a quicker lap. Is there anyone that is on a hot lap? Leopard is peeling into the pit, so everyone on a cooldown or an out lap at the minute. Let's get on board. Actually, Mr. Anchor's still away from starting a lap. Final couple of drivers starting to make their way out of the pits in their out laps. They'll have another, well, I guess 40 seconds or so to get out of the pits, otherwise they will miss their chance to set final lap.
Do you think we will see some other in the pit lane? Not in the pit lane, but by entering the pit lane, because we've seen before that if you go too fast into the first of the 2 corners where the pit lane, you're again of this little piece.
No, we'll have to wait and see. I am very aware, though, that those drivers can just lose their back end, as you mentioned. Just if you carry too much speed into the first of those left-handers, just like Leopard did with his first hot lap, and it's so easy to lose the back end through there. Just if you get a little bit too greedy onto the power, you can lose traction. But just to Anchor on a hot lap right now in sector 2 as he makes his way through the Anderson Bridge and into turn 13 onto the Esplanade Drive. Going to get a little bit of a tow from the Mercedes up ahead. Makes his way into turn 14. 2 tenths up on his best at the minute, but he's 9 tenths down on his teammate Napadovsky, who currently leads the field. Anchor makes his way under the second of the bridges onto the short straight before turns 20 and 21. Right on board through the final couple of corners, and now carries a fair bit of speed, runs a little bit wide, but that shouldn't cost him. How fast will it be? It's a 34A. It's an improvement, but only by a 10th. It will be enough to picking him up a 5th place. As Zones readying himself up through the final corners to start his final hot lap.
Foden trying to get another lap, but he had in 30 seconds.
How far is Photon from the start-finish line, actually?
He is just...
He's really far. He's not going to make it.
Yeah, I think not. No, 10 seconds aren't enough.
Not a
It's just
chance. So, Photon. Well, that's good news for Hypers anyway in the championship. As
that's right.
let's go on board with Soren actually. Oh wait, Soren just finished his lap. I saw a request to ride on board with Soren, but unfortunately I caught that too late. I'm very sorry, Foopy Panda. But board with zones into turn 14. Back on the power and through the kink of 50. Wait, it says that he's on an outlap, but I'm sure he isn't.
Ah, buggy game.
This is why Codemasters purchased Madhouse, right?
Yeah.
I hear that means that we're going to get... Oh, Zones loses the back end, and hopefully there's no one that's going to be coming through turn 21 now, because that would be pretty bad if Zones lets his car reverses it into the pits. Very, very nice. As Nameless, he's 6 thousandths down. Make that 1 thousandths down now through Sector 2. And he's only a few hundredths off Crew 6's time, so he has a massive opportunity to go for third, maybe even a front row start.
Basically, we would just need a 10 to have one more position.
As Napadovsky sets a new fast lap at 33.8. That is nuts, as Nameless takes second. What about Leopard, though? He is not on a quick lap, it seems.
No. 9 seconds is not quick.
What about Photon? Oh, Photon has made it onto a lap. So, okay. I have no idea. He has done the impossible for Photon through the final couple of corners. Your championship leader through turn 23. It's a 34-2. It's only enough for 4th place, but that is much better than where he was previously sitting.
Yeah. I don't know how he made this.
I don't know, because I went and looked as well, and he was only halfway around the track with about 20 seconds remaining.
I think it was like 10.
Some rather strange scenes at the end of qualifying, but there you go. So confirmation of your qualifying results. Napadovsky takes pole ahead of a very quick Nameless in the Ferrari. Leopard, after his win at Monza, lines up in 3rd alongside championship leader Photon. Crew 6 takes 5th ahead of Flying Finn, Mr. Anchor. Zones takes 7th ahead of WoW, as Paddy and Brownie complete top 10. With that, though, I think we're going to head into a short break, and we'll be right back with tonight's race. Go. It's raining. It's raining. It's raining.
It's raining. What?
Time to get hyped, ladies and gentlemen. Who would have thought? I
mean, have they known that before? Because they were really fast with. If they choose wet setups, that was really.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, ORL round 15 here at Singapore is going to be in pouring wet conditions. Lining up on a pole is a VSR Napadovsky with a Ferrari of a Nameless alongside. Leopard, our driver of the day from last week, lines up in 3rd alongside championship leader Photon. Crew 6 is in 5th alongside the second Red Bull of Mr. Anchor as Zones and Wow complete the 4th row of the grid. Paddy and Brownie complete the top 10 as Soren and Shad line up in 11th and 12th. Rip SN and Rupert are 13th and 14th as Kaboom and Andinator take apparently 15th and 17th. Triton, Layman and FK Gaming were unable to set lap times, and they will be rounding up the back of the grid. The championship standings, Photon leads on 192 points ahead of Hypers, who is on 170, and Hypers, due to a race ban, will not be able to take part tonight. Napadovsky is in 3rd on 100 points, with Formula Danny in 4th, and Layman in 5th, just 4 points shy, as Mark sits in 6th, Matthias in 7th on 58 points.
And in the Constructors' Championship, we have Torossa in 1st with 223 points. Then followed by Mercedes with 195 points now. And in 3rd place, we have Red Bull. In 4th place, we have Williams with 130. In 5th place, we have Alfa Romeo with 103 points. And then in 6th, there's Ferrari, there's McLaren in 7th, Renault in 8th. In 9th, we have Haas, and again, last but not least, we have Racing Point in 10th place.
And as I want to give him, ORL top fan, Mr. Ghost, back in the chat, pointing out that we were kind of right with our analysis in qualifying, that we weren't expecting those soft tires to get used. And, well, I guess the rain kind of proves why everyone went for those soft tires. But, oh no, we talked about how this is one of the longest tracks on the season, how it's one of the most demanding tracks on the season. You add in rain and well...
Yeah.
This,
it all comes together.
I do feel that over the entire season, this is now officially the most difficult race. Singapore in the wet, Monaco in the dry has nothing on it, folks. Neither does Baku either, as the final couple of drivers are lining up on the grid. Napadovsky, Nameless at the start. We've been talking about this is a championship battle between Photon and Hypers, but Napadovsky isn't out of this yet, as the revs rise and it's lights out and away we go. It looks like it's a very good start from the Ferrari of Nameless. Leopard gets a good start as well. Nameless down the inside into turn 1. Photon looking aggressive. There's contact. Photon's almost sent spinning, as that is the McLaren of Leopard cutting through the course as he runs wide into turn 1. But it is Nameless who leads the Singapore Grand Prix after the first couple of corners. Photon is in 2nd alongside Napadovsky coming out of turn 5, and Napadovsky will reclaim 2nd position as Leopard is looking racy as well. Back behind, we're seeing the Haas of Krusix looking for the inside of the zones, but he won't be able to make that one work as the Ferrari of FX Rupert runs wide. He's gained 4 places off the start, as Rip SN having a fantastic start as well. He's up into 8th place.
And I saw Lehman just spun, but he started 18th, so he basically lost no place. But he is now a big gap between him and FK Gaming, and that's it for his session.
And everyone from 15th down very far off. So I'm not sure if there was contact or anything, but as you mentioned, Layman is out of the race, and that is no points for Williams going to be coming in, as Shad is not an official Williams driver. Nameless running a little bit wide into turn 14 will allow Napadovsky to close up somewhat as we enter sector 3. Still close between the top 4, followed by a 1.2 second gap, as we're seeing 2 drivers side by side, and I think that was Wow and Soron. Wow holding on to 7th place for now, but he has an absolute bunch of cars right behind him. We ride on board with Paddy Rupert running wide into the wall under the tunnel, and he's got someone on his outside, and that is Mr. Anchor, who is back up to 12th place after a rather terrible start. We haven't even completed lap 1 yet.
That will be a very interesting race. Especially all the start was really...
You cut out for a second, but Kaboom up into 10th place. Rupert really seeming to struggle. But let's take a look at Photon, because he is very, very close to Napadovsky as they make their way onto the Raffles Boulevard. Remember, no DRS in these wet conditions, and it makes it so much more tricky to find a way through. And we don't know yet if the track will be drying up either. So, you know, there might still be that kind of balance between a wet and a dry setup, as FK Gaming has retired from the session as well. But Napadovsky really struggling in the wet conditions, and Nameless pulling away as Photon and Leopard trying to find a way past the Red Bull man. Zones under some pressure from Crew 6. Battle for 5th place. Starting to eat up. Bit of a two-horse battle. That's a car off. That's Napadovsky. He's run wide into turn 14. I don't know if he's lost any of his front wing, but he's going to have to reverse out of that one as he drops through the order all the way down into 11th place. And that is heartbreaking for the Red Bull driver. And that is going to be Nameless's kind of free time at the front out of this, as
oh no,
Maku has left the session. So it's going to be back to the good old screen share, unless you can get back in.
I don't know if I can try wait. I think it maybe it could work. Yeah,
It's working.
It could work. It could. Wait. It should work. I
It
can
says you
rejoin you
joined.
somehow.
A lovely jubbly then. Well, Nameless sets a new fast lap of the race. A 3-second gap to Photon. We remember back in the wet at China, Nameless was having a good race. There was contact between him and Hypers, I do believe, or him and Formula Danny. And it did wreck Nameless's race. He was sent spinning into the final corner. But no such bad luck this time around. Nameless leading by an absolutely massive margin. Only 3 laps into the race. But look at Zones. Zones side by side with Crew 6 now as they're making their way into turn 10, I do believe. Now they make their way into the very tight, twisty part of Sector 2. Crew 6 sitting in 4th, Zones 5th, Soren 6th, Wow 7th, Kaboom in 8th, followed by the Red Bull pair of Mr. Anker and Napadovsky. But Photon, let's keep an eye on this gap between Nameless and Photon. It's 3.2 seconds, and Leopard is hanging in there as well. If Leopard can...
And Mr. Anker tries on Kaboom, but just lets him go first. It's very hard to overtake in the rain, especially in Singapore then.
As you mentioned, very, very difficult to find a way through as Mr. Anker sat back in temporarily through 17.
He got already really close in Sector 1, I think, but there's not... to find the right spot for overtaking is very difficult.
I think Brownie's just found a way through onto Andinator. Actually, no, Andinator's up ahead, looking for a way through on Napadovsky, and Photon now 2.5 seconds down on Nameless and pulling away from Leopard. So Photon really finding the pace here in the wet at Singapore. So there's a yellow flag down in Sector 3 as Rip are pulling into the pits, and that's not a good sign for him. Oh, Mr. Anker and Kaboom side by side, heading down the Raffles Boulevard, as Anker's going to have the inside, heading into turn 7, and will pick up the position as Kaboom will not be able to get the better drive.
And is it already raining less? I think it seems a little bit like it.
It may very well be, and actually, Rip is onto the intermediate tyres. Rip is out of the pits on the inters. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that one. As you mentioned, well spotted, Maku, but the rain is coming down indeed less, or so Rip thinks anyway. Let's just compare lap times between our race leaders and what the Williams driver is able to do. He's 39.4 seconds down on Shad. Has he picked the perfect time to switch onto the semi-grooved tires. As I think there's an incident down behind Mr. Anker and Napadovsky, and the Renault gets caught out of Brownie as well. So I'm not sure, but it's in exactly the same place as last time. But this time Napadovsky, I guess, takes two with him. Not sure if that was Napadovsky's fault, but I'm guessing two people were side by side going into turn 14. Nameless into the pits as well.
Yeah, they're bidding for
and Nameless is going to get held up by Leopard, who dives into the pits as well. And that is not good for Nameless, because Photon might be able to use that one to jump out ahead. But our indicator here is Rip, who is making his way through the final, into the final sector now. Not quite sure what this lap time is going to be and where he's going to feed out. We're going to have to keep an eye on that, as everyone seems to be peeling into the pits with the exception of the front three. And where will Rip feed out? In fact, he's going to come out behind everyone. So I think he's pitted one lap too early for those intermediate tires. And unfortunately, that's going to cost him dearly.
Yeah, and Animator just got a time penalty for speeding in the pit lane.
Oh, well spotted as well. And an 8 to 5 second time penalty.
Yeah, I think that's also something in the rain, because you have to brake earlier entering the pit lane. And yeah, with the qualifying in the dry, you have your brake point from the dry conditions.
However, let's take a look from Rip's perspective, because he's about to complete Sector 1 now. Let's take a look at what it's looking like. It's a 32.4, so he's slightly off the pace. Now, Andinator and Kaboom, they're still on those full wet tires, so they do need to pit. And what about Photon? He's coming into the final sector now, through 20 and 21. Surely he's going to dive into the pits this time round. Will he leave it later? Nope, Photon will come into the pits. Now, the interesting thing is, can he jump ahead of Nameless? Because he was catching in by a massive margin, and we did see Nameless getting caught out in the pits by Leopard, so that cost him about a second. And with Nameless right now, he's making his way through 20 and 21. Here comes Nameless out of the final corner. Will we be seeing a Photon up ahead? Photon's coming out the pits and Nameless will take the lead. Photon out of the pits. Leopard will take second. So Photon one lap too late onto the intermediate tires, and it will cost him a position.
So the championship leader, the newcomer who won last time, and Nameless, also a really good driver, in the top three. Let's see what they can do.
You say that, but it works out perfectly, because, you know, you've got the newcomer, you've got the new winner, you've got the championship leader, and you have the one that cannot be named.
Yeah, that's right.
There you go, perfect. 100% not scripted here, as we do see Rip setting the fastest lap of the race. But we saw Napadovsky coming out ahead of him. Napadovsky, and actually Anker. Anker has now retired from the race after that incident into turn 14. As there's a yellow flag in Sector 1. Just going to try to scroll through, see if I can find out who it is.
It's Brownie.
Yeah. And that's part of his front wing gone as well. His left end plate, I believe, is missing. And was that turn 5 that he's run wide at?
I don't know.
Well, maybe he can be brave for us and put on a set of slick tires. See how that one goes. Let us know what the conditions are like, because Paddy and Wow, they're battling for 7th place at the minute. We're going to keep an eye on the gap at the front as well. 2.5 seconds from Nameless to Leopard, with Photon a further 1.5 seconds behind.
Yeah, we've now a little bit more gaps between everyone. Like everyone has at least 2 seconds, except for Wow. He's half a second, or now it's 3 tenths behind Paddy. So basically, we have just we have to watch out when the drivers are coming in again for a new set of intermediates or even slicks if the rain will stop.
Well, we're
Some,
only on lap 7 of 31, so we're a quarter of the way through this race. Not even a quarter of the way through the race, so
yeah,
plenty of time for the track to dry up, or even to decide to rain more so we can go back onto some full wet. But wow, and
or
Paddy, still 4 tenths between them, but they are really pushing. You can see the back end twitching coming out of almost every single corner.
yeah.
Wow, Marty having a
And
look.
uh, just a look, not
Oh,
really a try.
okay. So Brownie
And
heels into the pits and he picks up a 5-second penalty and then retires as well. And we're now just left with 13 of the original 19. Mark was never able to get in for the race due to internet issues. That was a massive, massive shame as well, as I'm sure he would have been right at the sharp end of this race. Ferrari.
another time penalty for Shad.
Oh, another one. Has he already got one?
No, just because we had one for.
However, I want to ride on board with the battle for 5th place because not only is this, the battle for 5th place and it's quite high up, but we've got a lot of Zones fanboys in the chat, and I think we have a few Soren fanboys as well. So this is going to be quite an interesting battle as Nameless sets a new fast lap of the race of a 1:54 flat, but Soren within half a second now of Zones as they make their way through the final couple of corners and onto lap number 8. And we are seeing Leopard slowly closing in onto Nameless. He did go faster on lap 7 by a couple of tenths, and Nameless clearly a little bit faster on that last lap, as Photon kind of stabilizing that gap to Leopard at 1.7 seconds as the drivers make their way through turn 5. You can see a piece of end plate that was Brownie's from when he did run wide a couple of laps ago.
Yeah, so basically I'm just taking a look at the lap times of Nameless, and he's now, the last lap time was a 1:54. And at the beginning of the race, they were at a 1:58, so they're now 4 seconds up on their times. So I think the track is, but his last lap times were both, I think, faster than Leopard's. And yeah.
We are seeing that gap starting to it's extending ever so slightly. He went to 2.6, now it's back down to 2.4, so it's yo-yoing up and down, but the gap to Photon is not. He's just 1.1 seconds down on Leopard now, and I'm sure his eyes are glowing red with the chance to find a way past Leopard. We'll keep an eye on those times as well, see if they continue to drop and whether the soft tires is an option, but that's wow off, and yep, it's turn 14 once again. And this time, wow, into the wall, loses his tire as well. Photon sets a 1:53.7, so he is on an absolute flyer at the moment. 1.4 seconds down on Leopard. But now just 12 drivers remaining as we head on to lap 9 of 31 as Andinator picks up a 3-second time penalty.
That's now his second.
Yes.
And Nepodowski was just closing in on Shad a little bit.
Yeah, so we have 2 battles going on, Soron and Zones, and Napadovsky and Shad. Napadovsky and Shad. It was, I believe, Wow and Shad, but Wow intervals that will end things. And I don't think that is the last casualty we're going to have either.
Yeah.
As Napadovsky getting very close to Shad, so let's ride on board as Red Bull fights the sister team Toro Rosso.
And, oh, that was a quick overtake.
Napadovsky round the outside into turn 14.
He just got a way better exit in turn 13, I think.
And now Napadovsky can start to hunt down Paddy in 7th place, who it's then 11 seconds behind Soren as Andinator picks up yet another time penalty. So he's really struggling in the wet conditions, down in 12th place.
Is he cutting kind of every corner?
I don't blame him. I would not want to be driving in these conditions.
Me neither, but
Oh, Nameless sets a new fastest lap of the race, a 1:53.7, which I believe is a couple of hundredths quicker than what Photon was able to set. And the Leopard starting to fall off from Nameless now. He's dropped half a second over the last couple of laps. Photon just over a second behind, but yellow flag in sector 3. Let's see if we can find out what that one is for. I'm not sure.
well, maybe just someone exceeded track limits. So
Perhaps. Everyone's front wings seem intact. Zone still close, getting hunted down by Soren. But I also want to give a massive shout out here to Crucix, because he's having a fantastic race so far, up in 4th place, which I believe would be his best result of the season. And I do believe a contender for driver of the day.
yeah. So yeah, Crucix's best result so far was 7th place 2 times.
7th place times, and you know, while you can say that a couple of the Triton drivers aren't here, Lehman was here. He did have a DNF. Still a fantastic job from Crucix. Although I do feel, actually, so much credit to Nameless, because he's leading this race 3 seconds up on Leopard, who's ahead of the championship leader, and he's almost making it look like this is something, you know, just a walk in the park. It's his first time leading a race, I do believe. At least his first time, you know, in contention to win a race. So this is fantastic stuff from Nameless.
So I think Nameless just wasn't there that often. He attended five races. Wait, can I count? Yeah, 5 races. Finished 3 of them, and 1 of them he won in Canada.
Oh yes, he did win at Canada. I forgot. So, yeah, Nameless is showing that he knows what he's doing. He's done it once before, and Maku. Oh, pardon.
And maybe Singapore is one of his favorite tracks. So,
I do believe we were talking to a driver at the end of Monza, and they were saying that they do really like Singapore. I think it might have been Leopard. And well,
yeah, he's also showing some great stuff out there. So.
However, Soren struggling to find a way through on zones. These two have been within about half a second of each other for quite a while. But Photon closing in onto Leopard. We'll have to see whether he can find any way through. But I do feel we're going to have to wait for the track to dry up. But taking a look at the conditions at the moment, it doesn't look like the rain is going to be slowing down anytime soon.
No, not really. I think now it's just you have to stay focused, and you have to do as less mistakes as possible, because especially in zone's position, as soon as you make mistakes, Soren will get past, except he will make a mistake too.
Zones will have to be careful, so will Leopard. However, Napadovsky is on a bit of a charge. He's only 2 seconds down on Paddy at the minute. He is absolutely flying. Not setting any quickest laps or anything like that, but he can see the McLaren driver just ahead of him. And this is actually a pretty good outing for McLaren at the minute. 2nd place and a 7th, as I do believe Paddy is the official McLaren driver in the league. And this would be enough to take them up from 6th place to 5th. They will jump ahead of Alfa Romeo. Actually, no, they won't jump ahead of Ferrari, though, because Nameless looking to pick up the 25 points. So, Ferrari and McLaren will be jumping up to 5th and 6th, respectively. But Leopard actually closing in that gap to Nameless a little bit. Again, it's down from 3 seconds to 2.8. And dragging Photon with him. And I do believe, though, that Photon does have the pace to catch all the way up to Nameless. So maybe Leopard might let Photon through just to drag him closer to Nameless. But I do doubt that.
Well, but yeah. I mean, it could be a possible strategy if you know you can overtake him later in the race, because it's still like 20 laps to go. So letting Photon give him a tow to get closer to Nameless, but then he has to get the position back first.
The other thing that I want to mention is we saw drives moving on to the Inters at about lap 6, I believe. That means that
Yeah.
they've got 25 laps to do on the intermediate tyres. Now, I know the wet weather tyres last for a long amount of time, but will it be able to last all the way to the end of the race?
No, I don't think so. I don't think they will drive these tires until the end, because I think the wet tires are maybe you can drive a little longer time on them, but if they're getting worse, the grip is really bad on them.
Oh, as Leopard picks up a 3-second time penalty as he's really starting to close in onto Nameless, and now Photon sets the fastest lap of the race. So Leopard and Photon are on a move, but Leopard with a couple of corner cuts, it would seem. Napadovsky right on the tail of a Paddy is finally caught up and seems so much quicker as Zones also picks up a time penalty. So I do think the track is starting to dry up, and it looks like there might be a little bit less rain coming down as a bit of contact between Napadovsky and Paddy through the final corner.
Yeah, basically, I just looked it up, and Napadovsky is driving the same times as the front row. He's also on the 150, 154 zeros on the last 2 laps. I think now he'll be a little bit slower because he's behind Paddy, but he's able to drive the 154s.
And just to remind people, when we first came onto the Inters, we were doing high 54, so the times are coming down.
And Napadovsky gonna pass Paddy on the straight, just with more traction, and yeah.
Napadovsky up into 7th place down the inside at the end of the Raffles Boulevard. But as you mentioned, yeah, Napadovsky, I mean, we expected him to be up with the front runners. He qualified up with the front runners, qualified in 2nd place, but a bad start, and then 2 incidents into turn 14. We only caught the aftermath of both of them. The first one I do believe was entirely his own fault. He was by himself, and I think he just ran wide. But the second one, I think there might have been contact with Mr. Anchor, or potentially another driver was there. So we'll have to maybe wait and see afterwards. There's 53.6 in from Nameless, so track conditions definitely getting quicker here. When 8 seconds the gap to Nameless, and Leopard and Photon have the Ferrari man in their sight. But definitely looking like a lot less rain through Sector 1. In Sector 2, it looks like there's a bit more rain, though.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting camera angle there from Soren. It was like the camera was stuck in the rear wing. But actually, I think Soren's got a really good drive coming onto the Raffles Boulevard side by side here with Zones. But Zone does crucially have the inside for turn 7. Soren around the outside. He'll finally get the job done after about 6 laps stuck behind the Mercedes driver. Soren's up into 5th place.
But that's it in racing. You just have to be patient and then use your opportunities.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Maku, just needed to wait for Zones to make a mistake, and maybe Zones just had a little bit of a moment coming out of turn 5. That was enough for Zones to get alongside. But with Soren up in 5th, he can start hunting down Krusix, who, to be fair, is 12 seconds up the road. Napadovsky, 11 seconds behind Zones as well. So we have 2 hunts on our hands here.
Yeah, but you have to remember that I think Dabrowski was 13 seconds behind zones, so he's catching up really fast.
Is indeed, as Kaboom is closing in onto Rip SN as Photon with a 53.6, and the times are really tumbling. They've come down by about, what, 1 second in the last 2-3 laps?
Yeah.
And actually, look on board from Nameless, there is no rain in Sector 1 at all.
Right.
There's no rain anywhere on the track. I'm scrolling
it
through
looks,
everyone.
It looks completely, no, not completely, but it looks nearly completely dry.
Okay, let's have a commentator challenge here, Maku. What
Okay.
lap do you think the first driver is going to pit for dry tires?
First,
So not when the right time is. When are we going to see the first pit?
I think, I think 16. You know, next one.
Yeah, you're mind reading. I was going to say 16, but I can't do that now. So I'm going to take a lap of 17. Let's see who will win this battle. And you guys in the chat, feel free to join in with us. If you get it right and we got it wrong, we'll give you a nice little shout out on the stream.
Yeah. Maybe even some of them are coming in, or one is coming in after this lap in lap 15.
I was going to suggest that. I was thinking
Yeah.
like at the end of this lap, maybe.
Yeah.
Because
I was like, 15. Wouldn't that be too early?
Because I'm just thinking that the drivers at the back of the grid, and I'm talking about Andinator most specifically,
Yeah.
got nothing to lose. Go for it.
Yeah.
But let's see, Nameless will not. Oh, he is. We're both wrong. The race leader into the pits at the end of lap 15.
And Photon 2.
Photon 2. Leopard is going to stay out. So Leopard potentially making the mistake that Photon did at the end of the first stint. Now, this is where it's tricky. On dry tires, and it's hard tires as well, which are so difficult to navigate on in these changeable conditions. And we're seeing Photon, he's going for the medium tires. So 15 laps on these medium tires, I do believe, you know, they should be able to do it, but they'll be really worn at the end. Soren is into the pits as well, so is Zones. Nameless out. Now, I do want to ride on board with Nameless and see how he does on these hard tires, because it is looking pretty dry out on the track, but let's see what he's able to do. Napadovsky stays out for another lap as well, and that might be a crucial strategy decision for him too.
Yeah, I think Nameless has to warm up his tires, because in the first round it will be pretty slippery, especially because it's a little bit wet still. But yeah, it looks kind of a moment there.
DRS is enabled, so this is the perfect time, I guess, to switch over. And Leopard is going to be getting caught out by this one. Photon, though, closing into Nameless at a ridiculous speed. I'm not going to lie, I would have actually thought doing 2 soft stints might have been the best for the drivers, but it's right on the bubble. It's right on the bubble as Kaboom picks up a 5-second time penalty. And actually, I'm going to keep an eye on Soren because he's closing in onto Shad. And look how quickly he's closing in on the medium tires.
Oh, what?
Wow.
Half a second, just...
They're going to gain like 5 seconds on one lap alone. Leopard is into the pits. And I'm sure Crucix will be following suit. Yes, he will. Let's stick on board with Soren for now. Look at the speed that he's closing in onto Shad with. And around the outside.
Photon is at the back of Nameless.
Photon is, yeah. Photon with the softer compound of tires just finding so much more grip. And there's Leopard out of the pits. Leopard, though, will have to settle for 3rd place for now. Photon will jump ahead and will redeem himself after pitting 1 lap too late last time around.
And Photon really wants this 1st place now. He just tried in corner 1 and 3. And he's now just hunting down Nameless.
He's got the DRS as well here, heading down the Raffles Boulevard. Nameless goes defensive.
Round.
Photon looking for the outside. He gets squeezed. He could have a look for the inside, but he will decide against it as Kaboom picks up a 3-second time penalty. And Leopard is watching all of this unfold in front of him. Could potentially look to pick up the pieces.
Photon is really careful with the overtaking.
And Leopard's on this battle as well, so we have a 3-horse race for the lead. Nameless on the hard tyres. He's really going to struggle with this. And I just don't think the hard tyres were the best option here. Nameless might have thrown his race away with one very, very simple decision, I guess.
Well, but the question is, what is with the medians after 15 rounds? After 15 laps?
And this kind of all comes down to how much preparation the drivers have put in. How well do they know the tyre lives here at Singapore?
But especially if Foden is pushing now fully, I don't know if he will have tyre left until the end. Or he's stopping again, but Nameless doesn't need to stop.
Leopard's got a really good run out of the final corner, but it doesn't matter because Photon has DRS. However, Leopard's having a look. Is there going to be contact? Leopard forced to jump across the curb of turn 1. And we'll have to hold on to third now. But Nameless is just a stop in the bottle at the minute. And the other crucial question that we haven't asked yet, Maku, is what setups are the drivers using? Are they wet setups? Are they dry setups? Is this why Nameless was so far ahead at the start of the race? But Photon will be having a look. Here we go into the Raffles Boulevard. Won't be able to find a move. Nameless still leads on lap 18. Leopard looks for the outside as Photon goes defensive. Leopard won't quite be able to get the drive as Paddy picks up the fastest lap of the race. The top 3 are practically on top of each other here, but Photon is going to be forced to go defensive as Leopard has a look round the outside. This is actually nutty by the McLaren driver. Still side by side as they make their way through the Anderson Bridge. Photon will hold on to second for now.
Yeah, and as you mentioned the setups before, I think all of them have kind of a mixture of the wet and the dry setup because they needed the qualifying pace and then the safety in the race. But maybe Nameless has, as you said, a more dry setup than the other 2 drivers here. They maybe have a more high-speed setup with maybe less downforce, for example, and that's why they're now faster, but were in the rain slower.
Yeah, I was going to say Singapore maybe could have... Oh, Nameless picks up a 3-second time penalty as Photon is yet to pick one up, so Photon is, for all purposes, leading this race as things stand. But here at Singapore is, I guess, a high downforce setup anyway. So it's interesting because from track to track, the difference between a wet setup and a dry setup differs. You know, you go to somewhere like Spa and there is a massive difference in setups. And then you go to somewhere like Monaco where a lot less difference between your 2 setups.
Yeah.
Soren set a faster lap of the race and they're closing in, but Photon looking for the outside through turn 7. He's going to get forced out wide, but now Leopard looking to join in the fight. Nameless holds on to the lead, but Leopard will get the better drive out of a turn 8. Into turn 9 they go. It's still Nameless from Photon, from Leopard, but Leopard right on the back of the Toro Rosso. He'll look for the outside into turn 10, but he won't be able to find anything as fast lap coming in from Napadovsky. He is just 2/10 down on Paddy, and he might be looking for a way through as Zones also closing in onto Soren as there's a move up ahead. Leopard down the inside of turn 13, I believe, as they make their way now into turn 14. Photon has the inside. Leopard looking for the outside. They'll squeeze each other wide, but I think Leopard's done this. The McLaren up into second place.
Oh, wow. But the problem is still, both of them, Nameless and Leopard, have time penalties, so they have both get 3 seconds of Foden to be actually in first place.
Indeed. Now, Zones 4/10 behind Soren. Napadovsky 18 seconds behind Zones. Remember, he was 10 seconds down before the pit stops, but pitting 1 lap later has cost him so much. Leopard down the inside into turn 1 as we enter lap 20. He's on the inside for 3 as well, side by side with the Ferrari driver. And Photon might be looking to join into this one as well. Now he's on the inside of the Leopard, heading into turn 4. But it is Nameless from Leopard from a Photon as we enter the Raffles Nationals Boulevard through the kink of 6 we go. Leopard's looking racy. Leopard's looking for the inside, and Leopard will go down the inside. He picks up a 3-second time penalty, but I think he's got the move to work. Nameless down the inside, and that's the Leopard into the wall. And I'm not sure if Nameless pushed him wide there, but that is a Leopard's race wrecked as a Nameless reclaims the lead. Photon right on his tail, and that is a devastating for Leopard in his second race. He was looking to get 2 wins back to back, and could you feel any worse for the McLaren driver?
But is it possible that he got the warning while overtaking? That it's possible that the game told him to give back the position because he gained the position outside the track limits?
That is a very good point. It may very well have been, but look at Leopard. He is struggling so much. No downforce. His wing is completely wrecked, and already 7 seconds lost. But he can snap on another set of medium tires, and you never know. If Photon has to make another pit stop, maybe he can make something work here, but so gutted for him. Photon, though, on the tail of Nameless as we enter lap 21. Paddy picks up a 3-second time penalty as well as Leopard into the pits. Let's see if he can go for a set of soft tires. There's only 10 laps remaining, and that might be a potential option for him. But Photon with the DRS around the outside of a turn 6. He'll have the inside 4-7 now as well. Photon side by side with Nameless, but Nameless forced out wide. He's now got the inside for turn 8. And he should be able to hold on to the lead, but Photon with the medium tires, better traction. Nameless round the outside for turn 10, and he will hold on to the lead of the race. However, Crucix and Zones side by side, and actually Soren's just picked up the position, and now Zones are joining in the fun. Soren up to third for what would be his first ever ORL podium. I'm not sure if he picked one up in Season 10, but it would definitely be his first podium of Season 11. However, Nameless is doing a fantastic job at the minute, somehow keeping Photon behind and taking out the edge of those medium tires. And the longer this goes, the better it is for Nameless, whose tire life of the hard tires should outlive the medium tires of Photon. Now, Leopard has come out in 8 seconds behind Paddy, and I don't even know if he's going to be able to close into Paddy here.
I don't know, but Leopard is a very fast driver. I can maybe take a look at the race, the lap times of Paddy.
Oh! That's big. Nameless hits the wall on the exit of a turn 5. He's lost part of his front wing, and now Photon will pick up the position, and there is nothing Nameless can do about it. The Toro Rosso up into the lead of the race. Now Nameless, he has to nurse a wounded car. Does he pit this lap, or does he stay out? I think it was just the end plate, but I mean, that's the entire end plate gone, and that could either be, you know, a slight yellow, or it could be orange damage, and that slight difference here at the high downforce circuit of Singapore will make a massive difference.
I mean, he could go for the softs, but he would lose a lot of places.
Yeah, and he would come out ahead of Leopard, right behind Paddy pretty much. So, on the soft tires, if it can make...
that far.
Leopard was about 6 seconds back when he pit.
Yeah, but is it that much?
It's going to be close, but look, Nameless, he's already lost 1.5 seconds to Photon, so I think he's going to pit. I think he has to pit, or wait a lap and then pit for soft tires. What will Nameless do? He's not going to pit. He's going to nurse the car around at least for one more lap. Let's stick on board. Let's stick with the zones, though, because he's closing in onto Crucix, and it's a similar story here. Mediums against hards. And you would have to expect zones to be picking this one up. I'm not going to lie, I do feel bad for Krusix. You know, we were talking about him being a contender for driver of the day, but once the conditions started to change, one lap too late into the pits, and, well, he's lost that position to Soren and probably to Zones as well. Zones?
Yeah, you're right with that.
Zones, he has DRS, dives down to the inside. Oh, there's contact, and that Zone sent spinning. Zones will be able to make it in a full 360, but Napadovsky is going to be closing in. There's still time for Zones to catch up and find a way through, but I think that one might have just been a racing incident there, Maku.
Yeah, I think it is. And, well, I think it was more Zone's fault than Krusix, so...
And
He tried, but he failed, so...
It's hard to say for definite with that one, as Soren runs a bit wide, but it's hard to say without being able to see a replay, maybe with a different camera angle as well.
Yeah.
Especially with something like that where it's, you know, could be so easily one driver's fault or the others. Soren in third place. He's only 9 seconds down on Nameless, who has dropped so much time. Nameless is losing about, well, 1.3 seconds a lap, maybe 2 seconds a lap to Photon, as the track is drying up, and I think it is bone dry now. So Soren, he could be looking to pick up a second place here, and Leopard is 2.5 seconds off Paddy. So he was 6 seconds a few laps ago. He should be able to pick up 7th pretty soon. Maybe he could even look to find the move onto Napadovsky as well. Remind everyone how the penalties stand. Andonate in 11th, he has 3 time penalties, a total of 11. Chad has 6 seconds worth, Paddy has 6, Leopard has 6, Zones I believe has 3 or 6, Kaboom has 8, and Nameless has 3. Nameless, he's already dropped another second from Photon. Soren, though, not closing in quite as quickly.
Yeah, and as you mentioned before, qualifying, I think if Photon stays in first, he will have now nearly a 50 points gap to Hypers in the Drivers' Championship.
And 50 points with, what, 5 laps remaining. Hypers would need to find 10 points every race. So that's him winning and, well, Photon coming third. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's 25, 18, 15 other points. And don't forget as well, bonus points for fastest lap. So it's not over for Hypers if he can, you know, pick up more wins. But he's going to need to have a near perfect end to the season. Wow, Nameless is now 6.2 seconds down on Photon. He's lost another second that lap. But Leopard is half a second down on Paddy, who's falling back quite quickly from Napadovsky. Leopard should be able to pick up this place without too much of an issue. DRS still too far back, and he'll probably have to look for the move into the Raffles Boulevard. As Paddy...
Oh. Or not... Yeah, well, that was kind of an easy overtake because Paddy made a mistake and Leopard took the place.
And, you know, this is a massive shame as well, just for McLaren in general, because this was looking like massive, massive points for them, and it was going to take them ahead of Alpha in the standings, and as it stands, they won't even be able to, you know, tie up with Alpha. So, big shame for them, as they would have been right in the hunt in the battle for 4th place in the standings. Soren, 6.7 seconds down on Nameless. I think he's catching up by about a second per lap. And the way this race is looking, he might be right on Nameless's tail from the final few laps of the race. Napadovsky, 1.1 seconds down on Zones, who... I'm not sure, did Zones lose a piece of his front wing in that incident? I don't think he has. Or maybe just overheat tires. And Napadovsky... Well, Napadovsky's closing in on Zones, and Zones isn't making any inroads onto...
But as you mentioned, Alpha is You say Alpha could have McLaren could have overtaken Alpha in the constructor championship, but it's pretty sure I think that Alpha will be overtaken by Ferrari because Nameless is in second and he is still dropping down. But I think he can hold Soren.
Yeah, Ferrari only 5 points away from Alpha, so, well, I guess Nameless just needs a 6th place, and that would be enough as it stands. Should have second, and if not, he'll pick up 3rd places. There's the yellow flag in Sector 1. That's Shad out of the race. We're riding on board with Andinator, and how has he done that?
I don't know.
That's a really weird place to lose the back end, and
He made a donut out of nowhere.
maybe he was just tank slapping all the way out from turn 4 trying to hold it, but very, very odd from Shad. Take a look at Napadovsky, half a second down on zones with a 5 and a bit laps remaining. He should be able to pick this one. Will be too far behind Crucix to make anything work there. And Zones, from being on point to finish in 4th, now looking at the potential 6th place. And that contact with Crucix has, again, messed up his races. There have been so many races that have just gone pear-shaped contact. And, you know, we talk about, you know, races going south for people. Napadovsky, 2 times at turn 14, gone off.
Yeah.
Must have lost about 20 seconds in total.
He will look up for the 5th place of zones. That would be really great for him after these 2 incidents he had.
And we were even talking about how if Napadovsky could have pulled out a win, maybe
he does this 5th place right now. No, wait. He goes around the outside into. I'm not sure right now.
still side by side. They make their way through the left-hander of a turn 13, pardon me, not turn 13, of a turn 9 into 10 they go, and it is Napadovsky who will be ahead up into 5th place in the Red Bull. However, Zones, if Zones does have 6 seconds of penalties, that means that Leopard can challenge Zones for this final position. He has 4 laps to catch up, 4 seconds, and if Zones picks up another time penalty, well, I think Leopard should be able to jump ahead from the penalty side of things alone.
I believe it also has 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, Soren, 3 seconds down on Nameless. Soren does not have a time penalty as far as I'm aware. Nameless does. So, as things stand, Soren is 1/10 away from picking up 2nd place here. Oh, Zones loses the back end. Zones loses the back end through the final corner, and Leopard will come through to pick up 6th place. Zones, will he be able to spin this one around? He's going to wait for Paddy to come through, and Zones will spin it around. And his race just goes from bad to worse, down to 8th place now. Kaboom up into 8th as well. And, well, that's just another driver's race who has just gone terribly, terribly south.
Yeah. And even though it's not even raining, but maybe it's just because of the setups, because they're more rainy setups now. Normally you have more downforce with the rainy setups, but yeah.
We have the driver of the day poll out in the YouTube chat, but after seeing that incident, maybe we should probably wait a couple of seconds before casting our votes, as this race still has a couple of more laps of life left in it. Leopard 5 seconds down on Napadovsky, but I doubt he's going to close that one up, and Napadovsky hasn't picked up a time penalty anyway. Crucix hasn't got a time penalty either, so I think 4th and 5th are pretty much set in stone. The question left is Soren. He is going to catch up to Nameless. He's 2.4 seconds down as the drivers making their way onto lap 29 of 31. So, Soren, 3 laps remaining to catch up 2 seconds to Nameless. I think he'll have this. If not from the penalties, he'll have it on position.
And Andy gets another 3 seconds. Is he now on 4?
Andinator has got...
This is his 5th?
I think that is his 5th, and that's excluding the 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. So I think Andinator disqualified. So we're not even going to have a full top 10 picking up points here. And I mean, all Andinator had to do was just kind of coast it around, but
Yeah.
Came for him and Chad as well. Just such an odd place to lose the back end, but I guess when you're pushing, stuff happens. Oh, Zones has left the session, so I'm not sure if he's had a disconnect or has just quit. But it wouldn't matter anyway because Andinator's getting disqualified. So maybe we're only going to have 8 people finishing the race here. Soren, though, 1.7 seconds down on Nameless as we approach the halfway mark of lap at 29. Actually, I should say the 2/3 mark as Soren and Nameless making their way into Sector 3 now. And I'm just going to put this into context because if Soren and Nameless actually battle hard for position, Crucix will be in range of Nameless's 3-second time penalty. So Crucix might be finding himself on the podium for the first time this year. For the first time in ORL, just in regardless. And there you can see the Haas coming through the final corner. Soren 1.4 seconds down. He's gained about, what, 7/10 on this last lap. So he will have DRS for the final lap of the race. And Crucix is right on that 3-second bubble to Soren. So it's going to be very, very close. The other question is, how are the mediums going? Leopard picks up another time penalty, so that's a 9 seconds worth. However, he's 10 seconds ahead of Paddy, so should be able to hold on to a 6th place. And I think also in the Fair Driver Challenge, Photon will be freaking clear, along with Crucix. Neither of them have picked up a penalty. However, Soren still 1.5 seconds down on Nameless as we come through the Anderson Bridge for the penultimate time. I just think that...
Is this the AI who pitted? Because...
I think Zones might just be going for the fastest lap of the race, you know?
Or that. Yeah, that's possible.
We'll have a lap to do it, unless he gets lapped by Photon. No, he's not. He's too far ahead. However, Soren, he's not closing in onto Nameless, so I think those medium tyres are officially dead. And look, Crucix has caught in by about half a second on this last lap. So, you know, the time to pit for those medium tyres, it was right on the cusp, but the medium tyres have officially died, and they're going to be down. He's probably nursing 80% tyres or something like that, because Crucix is closing in at a rapid rate, and Soren has only found about 1/10 on Nameless, and that's Nameless who has lost the front wing. But onto the final lap we go. Soren 1.5 seconds down on Nameless, and I think Nameless has got the position at least on track. Soren, though, will pick up 2nd place with penalties, and well, Crucix currently is 3.3 seconds behind Nameless, so he's not going to be able to make it onto the podium unless he can find another half a second or so.
Yeah, that would be really tight, especially because the times are always changing, and sometimes he is in this 3-second margin, sometimes he's not.
Currently at 3.3 behind. Now it drops down to about, goes up to 3.4 as we go onto a straight. Meanwhile, though, Photon, I mean, you can't fault him. Even if you think Nameless should have won, you think Leopard should have won, you think Napadovsky should have won, no fault can be put onto Photon at all. He hasn't put a foot wrong all race. He stayed out of trouble, and he'll come through the final couple of corners to take yet another win in ORL. He'll extend his championship lead as Nameless, making his way into turns 22 and 23. Soren is 1.7 behind. Crucix is right on that bubble. Soren will take 2nd. Crucix is 1/10 down on Nameless. So close, but yet so far. Napadovsky will come around to take a 5th place in the Red Bull. Leopard 4 seconds behind. But will pick up 6th place as Paddy struggling on those medium tyres. That track just dried up 1 lap too early, 1 or 2 laps too early. Paddy takes 7th and almost clips Leopard.
The EA is again doing shit with the cars. Oh, Leopard's car is lying around on the. Well, yeah.
It looks like. Okay, so I guess that does mean Zones was ghosting, and that is that. And as we can see, is a Force India on the podium, but it is a Photon who picks up the win in having a fantastic last few races. Just consistency has been the name of the game for the Toro Rosso driver. But final confirmation then of final confirmation of the results. Photon picks up the win ahead of Soren, Nameless, and Krusnik. Napadovsky takes 5th ahead of Leopard, Paddy, and Kaboom, as Andinator and Zones complete the top 10. Go through the incident as well. With that said and done, though, we're going to be heading into a short break. We will be back with our driver interviews. If you have any questions you would like us to ask our top 3, do let us know in the chat. And of course, vote for your driver of the day. The votes will close when we do enter into the interview, so make sure you get your votes in by that point. But stay tuned, we'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Joining us for our interview this time around, we have, pardon me, we have Nameless, Soren, and Leopard. Let's start off with you, Nameless. Fantastic qualifying, starting at the front. Great race. The first question I want to ask you, though, when you did pit for the dry tires, what was your thoughts between going for the hards and going for the mediums?
I thought that the mediums won't make it to the end, so I put the hards on. But in the end, I think that was the wrong decision because obviously they lasted that long. So I had not that grip as Photon and Leopard had. And yeah, so I think I lost the race there and also had front wing damage 2 times and also an incident with Leopard, which was a bit unlucky. And yes, so not the race I wanted.
And I do want to go to that incident between you and Leopard, and if you could both give your views on it. You think it was just a racing incident, or is there something one of you could have maybe done more to avoid that?
So start, I think. Yeah, I don't know. I have a look at it again, but yeah, he tried to overtook me, and then we were side by side going into the right-hander, and he closed a bit the door, but also I want to dive in because I don't want to give up the position. And then yeah, we touched and I pushed him into the wall. So I don't know. Yeah, I have to look at it again, but I think it was more my fault. But yeah, in the end, I couldn't done anything better because yeah, there was little room and I couldn't avoid the contact.
And from your perspective, Leopard, is Leopard's mic? Yeah. Um, let's move on to you then, Soren, because your race, it seemed entertaining. You were having a good battle with zones. You managed to find a way through in the wet conditions after so many laps. And then it seemed like quite a few people were dropping around behind you. When did it click that, you've got a big shot for the podium?
Yeah, it was a pretty tense race. So, of course, I just didn't expect to finish P3, P2, starting P11. I just managed to be as much careful as possible at the start to don't have issues as it was the case uh, previous races. And yeah, then the fight with zones was pretty interesting because I had to be very patient because zones were quick on the straight, so it wasn't possible for me to overtake him. And yeah, I just waited the mistake from his side, and then I could have been able to chase Kruzix, and then I just gave everything that I can to chase Nameless. I just was at 100% on on dry condition, and yeah, it was just what it could ways.
Well, I mean, you did pick up second after the time penalties came into play, so fantastic, good job from yourself picking that one up. Leopard, are you with us now? I will take that as a no. Um, in that case, Nameless and Soren, to both of you, I want to ask a final question before I let Maku give any questions he has. In qualifying, what was the thoughts? Because I'm guessing you guys knew it was going to be raining. What was the balance between, a wet setup and a dry setup for you guys?
I have to say that I drove with my dry setup, but obviously it was a bit of a mess because normally you do medium to hard. So I haven't done anything in terms of practicing quali on the softs. So I was quite happy with P2 in the end. And yeah, it was a bit of surprise that my setup worked quite well in the rain. So I was feeling very comfortable, and I think I yeah had a really good pace. And yes, I was really happy about that.
Well, I was a bit in the same situation as Nameless, but unfortunately, I haven't done a good lap in quali. But yeah, I was trying to do some few tweaks just to make the setup drivable on wet conditions, and it works. So yeah, I'm pretty satisfied about that.
And Maku, do you have any final questions?
Yeah, just a quick view into the future, into next week. What do you guys think about Russia?
It's a cutting fest, so I don't like the track that much. I guess the ones will win who has the least of penalties. So yeah, I don't like the track, but let's see.
Soren?
Yes, I also agree with Nameless. I was on good shape with that track on 2018. So yeah, maybe I will be able to do even more and and finish maybe one position better. Of course, I will try my best for that.
I'm not gonna lie, Maku, when you started off that question with a quick view to the future, I thought you were gonna make a reference to that guy who interviewed in IRL F1.
Oh no, but then I had to use a lot of German accent and made a very big question.
Okay, right. So just pray that you guys aren't getting interviewed by Maku at Russia, because I'm sure he's gonna be pulling that one out. But again, congratulations, Nameless and Soren, on your podium, and we hope to see you both at Russia.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Right, with that said and done, that's pretty much all that we have time for. Once again, Maku, any final words before we wrap things up here?
You just have to say that the weather made the race. That was the most the most important thing to bring up a little bit of tension and a little bit of suspense, like in a story that with a interesting all over the race. Yeah.
Well, guys, if you haven't already, do hit ORL up with a follow over on Twitter. You can see the Twitter tags for ORL, myself, and Maku on this front view. Also, follow ORL on YouTube. If you check up Online Racing League, you can find the YouTube channel where we have all of our highlights video posted, and the streams will be hopefully going back onto the official channel in a few weeks time. We'll give a notification for that on Twitter when that does come through. But that is all that we have time for. It was a drying track that started on full wet and ended on the dry compound tires. Photon picked up another win, and it was a bit of an odd one. Soren finally rejoins us on the podium in second place with Nameless in third. Thank you guys very much for tuning in. Stay fast, and we'll see you next week for the Russian Grand Prix.